This could be one of the greatest hot rodders inventions, right? That we've had in a while. Let's talk about Carb Cheater. Now, before we really get into what this whole thing's all about, there's got to be a little bit of background, right? Now, I think everybody, and if you haven't, you really should go check it out, seen the 40 miles per gallon lawnmower carburetor on the 302. Okay, that right there. That video, that in attempts to make that actually reality, he had to invent this carb cheater in order to make that small carburetor work. See, I mean, the tiny little carburetor, a lot of people think that it wouldn't be able to get a lot of, fuel in. It's actually the opposite. That small little carburetor actually ran so rich because it couldn't get any air in. So the solution was to simply have an air bypass, and he made it electronic and it controls air fuel ratio, and that's what we're going to be talking about. But there is its roots right there. So go check that out. So Thunderhead 289 has invented, right, this. Oh, thanks, Air. Yeah, just go ahead and blow as I'm recording. That's fine. Thunderhead 289 has invented this ingenious, simple, just absolutely, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm not going to lie. And you know what? I've gotten a lot of criticism from the other crewmates of mine, Junkyard, Pickle, 6%, Witty. I've gotten a lot of criticism from them that I actually like this product, and I like the idea behind it, right?
A carb feeder invented by Thunderhead 289.
I know what it is. Oh, Dan, you're going that route. Look, man,
hey,
you're a traitor. Traitor.
Do you know what it does?
Ow!
Do you know what it does?
So what happened to your whole flathead screws and flathead screwdriver speech?
Yeah, so you invented EFI with more steps and stupidity involved. Okay.
No, not more steps.
Traitor. You're a traitor. This is it, Dan. You're not a carburetor guy anymore. I'm sorry.
But Carb Cheater, what is it, right? What's it gonna do for you? Let's talk about Carb Cheater, because I genuinely think it is so simple, it's pretty damn good. So what is Carb Cheater? In its simplest terms, the most basic concept of it, through my own understanding, of course, all it is an electronically controlled vacuum leak. That's all it does. That's its only purpose in life, is to electronically control a vacuum leak. Why would you want that? Exactly what benefit are you going to be gaining by having a vacuum leak in your engine? That is something you try to avoid happening, right? Because it can mess everything up. This isn't your everyday run-of-the-mill vacuum leak here. This is a precision vacuum leak. This is a vacuum leak that is being monitored, being applied based on data that this little, box of magic, right, that they call technology, is gaining through air fuel ratios. Okay, now here is the Carb Cheater kit, right, in its entirety. There's the price tag, there's the logo, right, and that's everything that comes with it. Okay, that's all you're dealing with here. That right there is ingenious, in my own understanding, right? But look, it's just the magic box, right? This magic black box of technology, okay, there's an O2 sensor, right, to read air-fuel ratios through your exhaust, right, and just a couple of wires. I don't even think all those wires are necessary. A few of those wires are probably optional in case you have other mystery electronic gizmos under here, right? But just bare bones it, I think you only need about 3 of those wires. It's not bad. So, this magic box is going to read your air-fuel ratio, okay? And based on your air-fuel ratio, it will create a vacuum leak through just a solenoid, I would imagine. Creates a vacuum leak in your intake manifold to bypass air, bypass the air, around the carburetor, inject it directly into the intake manifold, so it will constantly keep an air-fuel ratio of your choosing. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's hot outside, cold outside, different elevations, whatnot. It will trim, it will maintain a specified air-fuel ratio to the best of its ability, simply by creating a vacuum leak. Comes with everything you need to drill a hole in your exhaust, place the bung, for the O2 sensor down there. That's a tongue twister. Not really, but was for me. And that's basically all there is. I mean, it even comes with these clamps that you don't even have to weld the bung in the exhaust. You can literally just clamp it with a couple of hose clamps. And you mount the mystery box somewhere under the hood or, underneath the dash or wherever you choose. Preferably the closer the better, because, the longer distance of vacuum line hose you have, the more of a delay there will be in its ability to trim. Just the closer it is to the action, the better, as far as I'm understanding this. You hook up power ground to the box, plug in the O2 sensor into it, and bada bing bada boom. I think that's it. That's not too complicated at all. Anybody can figure that one out. The best part, I don't have my phone. You're my phone. The best part is there's an app. Your phone will, Bluetooth its way to connect to the magic box, and on your phone it will create a full layout of air fuel ratio. It has data logging. It's got all this nifty gizmo, whatchamacallits on there, and it's all on your phone. So that is the basic premise of the whole, design here. Okay, that's it in a nutshell, right? That is its simplest description of what it does and how it works. I'm sure right now you're kind of thinking, okay, I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, whatever, right? I bet the main thing that you're wondering is how in the hell is a guy like him, a guy like me, actually approving of this gizmo magic, box, whatchamacallit. I'm gonna tell you, because I have simple standards, okay? My standards don't change. This meets my standards. Take a look at that price again. $400, okay? That is not a bad price. It's middle priced, right? It's not super cheap, but it's not very expensive. And basically, this is taking the place of an electronic fuel injection system, okay? That's really what we're talking about here. This item is going to keep a certain air-fuel ratio for you. It is going to, help the carburetor in this dynamic environment, weather, random cold fronts and shit like that, elevation, it's going to help the carburetor maintain a certain fuel ratio that on its own it has a hard time doing unless you really know what you're doing with tuning carburetors. Just for a comparison, this is the Holley Sniper, EFI setup that everybody seems to want to put on their cars nowadays. Look at that price tag. Yeah, I'd take the 400 way before I'd ever spend money on something like that. Number 2, what it does. Like I said, it maintains a certain air-fuel ratio. You know what that means? That means gas mileage. And when gas is this expensive, having good gas mileage is a huge benefit with cruising around these old rigs. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the time we don't have these things tuned for gas mileage. We're concerned about, going, right? Which is totally fine. You can tune these things for gas mileage. You can take a carburetor apart. You can really fine tune this thing to get it to have really good gas mileage. It can be done. Andy Wood, Casper, he was getting 16 miles to the gallon with tunnel ram, right? On a 393, 396? It's a 390 something, I think. His old engine before the big boss one went in, right? He was getting extremely good gas mileage because he super tuned it. Well, guess what? The average guy is not going to be able to super tune a carburetor and engine the same way, people like Andy Wood and, who spend the time to actually do it. This just opens the door for the average Joe to be able to use a carburetor effectively. Being able to use a carburetor like the pros, okay? It's number 2, just it opens the door for just the beginner level people. I mean, that is fantastic. Number 3, time. You know what? Tuning these old cars, and ties right into number 2. Tuning them up takes time. To really get a good solid tune, you have to spend a whole day with the thing. I mean, you have to, especially if you don't have an air-fuel ratio gauge and you're relying on your senses, your, sense of smell, looking at the spark plugs, getting out and just romping on it, testing it over and over again, which you can absolutely tune a carburetor like, and people have been doing it forever. I do it that way, but here's the problem. It takes time to do that. I will, I'll take it out, I'll romp on it a little bit, I'll get an idea of what I have to do, but then I have to put it away and I have to go, to sleep and go to work and come back, and then, I have a fuzzy idea at that point of what possibly a change, so I get time to change, the jet size once, right, or maybe change the accelerator pump. Go out, test it, get it, okay, so that's what it did, now I gotta do this, but then it's a whole nother day till I can make that change, because I have work, I have, videos, I have the kiddo, right? People just don't have the kind of time anymore. Number 4, it's got data logging. It's got all the stuff on your phone, right? Let me show you something. This is an air-fuel ratio gauge, right? It's the AEM, just a standard one. I'd gotten an air-fuel ratio gauge because I wanted to have the ability to see my air-fuel ratio while it's tuning with nitrous, right? It makes it a little easier to do it that way. But there's a big problem with this thing. I spent the time, I did the work, I converted this newfangled, thing to look old, okay? Because I could not stand having something new like that in here. I got old school gauges. This is an old school build, okay? Yes, that's a little fancier, right? I mean, yeah, I got this. But at the heart of this build, this car, I want it to be old school. You know why this gauge isn't installed yet? Because I can't. I cannot stand, I can't put this digital readout in this car. It goes against what I have going on here. I have all these, orange needle gauges, old school gauges, and everything else. And yeah, this looks old school. But as soon as it gets powered up and it's got that digital LED, numbers on it, it's going to ruin the whole damn thing. So you know what? Is that just me just being picky? Abso-fucking-lutely. That is completely on me. But you know what? With a carb cheater, everything's on my phone, right? I don't need to messy up the inside of my car, my old school hot rod, with this newfangled, digital readout thing. I can have it on my phone, I can look at it when I want to, and then I can put the phone in my pocket and it will just go automatically without me even looking at it. If I want to see something, I can pull out my phone and see everything, okay? When I don't care to see anything, I don't have this staring me in the face with its digital readout, okay? That's big plus for me. Although now I gotta figure out what in the world to actually do with this thing. I wonder if anybody else would want it. Number 5. And this is probably the most important, actually is the most important reason why it has my stamp of approval so far. Unless I got some facts wrong, right? If I'm misinterpreting what it's actually doing here, which I don't think I am. But number 5 is the most important reason for me why I would even think, even contemplate putting one in the Iron Horse. And it's this. If you put an electronically controlled, fuel system, EFI, in your ride, and the electronics break down and just stop working randomly for no apparent reason, which they love to do, you're done. You're sitting on the side of the road. Your car is incapable of moving at that point, okay? DD Speed Shop, his Holly Sniper EFI kit thingy, right? Couldn't get it to work before Power Tour. And that's not an uncommon scenario. Lots of people have that exact same problem as he did, right? An MSD box. You put an MSD box in the thing and all of a sudden it just randomly pukes on you, which they have a reputation for. Well, guess what? You're still stuck on the side of the road. Now you gotta go get another $300 and some box in order to just get the thing to move. Or convert it back, to run without it. All these electronically controlled nonsense, pieces of junk that just, they're going to break down on you. You know it, right? You know it. You know they're going to break down on you. Happens all the time. And when they do, you're done. You're stuck. Because this piece of technology you have grafted into the heart and soul and blood and everything of the car. If it goes, that goes. But not the carb cheater, as far as I know. If the carb cheater and its electronically controlled Wizmo Gizmo box, right, its magic box, all of a sudden craps out on you like all these other electronically controlled things do, you might not even notice it. The carb cheater is nothing but a vacuum leak, right? The carb cheater simply leaks atmosphere underneath the carburetor to compensate the air-fuel ratio. Rich mixture up here, it's a little rich, adds air, leans it out, gets you the proper air-fuel ratio. If that thing pukes on you, all that's happening is just you are now a normally carbureted engine. That's the worst thing that can happen. If it pukes, you're just back to where you were anyway. You can still drive on. It's not connected to any vital organ on this vehicle, right? If it's a solenoid, it will be shut if it pukes. Just like this nitrous or fuel solenoids, right? It's closed. There's no power to it. If it pukes, it doesn't open. That to me is the biggest advantage of this whole thing. It's an experiment, right? It's an experiment. But you don't have to sacrifice the reliability of your vehicle in order to run it. You don't have to worry that it's going to puke and then you're going to be left on the side of the road unable to get a parts at a parts store because no parts store stocks parts for some magic Wizmo Gizmo box. If it dies on you, like all these other electronics do, the worst thing that happens is you go back to just an old school carburated vehicle and you might not even notice it. That's my 5 reasons why this old school, 90-year-old, brained individual is okay with this newfangled technology, right? Because it doesn't actually, go against my core beliefs, right? Number 5, it's not an integral part of the vehicle. It's not going to leave you stranded. You do not have to sacrifice your vehicle in order to install this. It's a side thing. It's an afterthought. It's on the side rather than directly implanted into it, right? And that's huge. Number 4, data logging. Guess what? You're trying to tune your carburetor. What better tool can you have than actual data logging, right? This is new school stuff. This is like advanced, computer nerd shit, right? That we can actually access with our old school stuff now, right? You can look at the data logging to see exactly what your carburetor's doing when you're hitting the gas and doing all this and that, and it saves it. That's even better than having one of these. Because try looking at this and at the road at the same time and trying to remember what in the hell this is saying. That can be pretty tough, especially if, holy shit, there's a deer. Right? So, it actually records the data and it saves it. So you can see if you need a little more pump shot here, maybe off the line, or, cruising, it's a little fat, and, so maybe go down a size of power valve so it doesn't open right away and this kind of stuff. Or, God, it just doesn't look that good. I might have to actually look at the emulsion circuit, maybe, drill out a couple of holes just to richen this place up. You can do all of that. It takes the mystery out of it, right? It is literally telling you exactly what you need to do, and then you can do it, which leads into number 3, time. Working on carburetors can be kind of time consuming, especially if you're doing it the old trial and error way. Well, if it tells you exactly what you need to do to it, then tuning the carburetor is dead simple. Anybody can do it. And guess what? That's the biggest part that keep people away from this old school stuff. Carburetors are so, just easy to work with. I mean, we tore that 750 apart, drilled it out, banged it with a hammer and shit to fit this 850 base plate provided by Clayton's Toolbox. Thank you very much. And we made a carburetor out of just bits and pieces, right? If I can do it, anybody can do it. I put it together with a goddamn butter knife, right? So, they're so easy to work on, but people are afraid of them. People are afraid to tune this stuff. And for good reason, because, it takes time, it takes trial and error. I'm still working on the tune with this thing because I don't have the time to dedicate. If I had one full day, starting 8 a.m., ending at, 8 p.m., one full day to just be out on the road, just take my jets with me, take all my tools with me, and just be out on the road, I could get this thing done in a day. But I don't have that kind of time. I change one thing here, and then I had to put it away, or I change one thing there, had to put it away, try to remember the next day what it was that I was thinking the day before, right? And, okay, that didn't fix it, but now I gotta wait one more day, right? Carburetors are easy to work on, it's just, it takes time to work on them. So number 3, it saves you that time from all the guesswork and trial and error and looking at plug readings and everything else that works completely fine, and you can absolutely get really good gas mileage with a carburetor if it's fine-tuned. Number 2, the gas mileage, right? You can get extraordinarily good gas mileage with these things if you super tune the thing. But, you know what? Having this thing an automated, vacuum leak, which is just so ingenious, right? It's so ingenious. It's so damn simple. It's ingenious. Just simply vacuum leak a little bit, to adjust the air fuel ratios to keep one constant air fuel ratio regardless of what's going on the outside. Simple gas money. I guarantee you the cost of it, which was number one, the cost of it, $400. $400 versus $1,200 EFI system to try to get good gas mileage. Guess which one the gas is going to pay for first, right? You get good gas mileage in these things, it pays for itself right then and there. Because I tell you, if you know what you're doing, you might be close. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're probably way off on the tune. These things will run way off on the tune. You will get in it and you can drive it all over the place. And it could be like completely fucking messed up. But it'll still run, it'll still get you where you need to go. That's one of the charms of the carburetor, really, is that it's almost hard to get a carburetor to where it's not going to at least get you where you need to go. But you know what? A lot of people are driving like that, and to those people, this will absolutely pay for itself in probably one summer, right? With the cost. Now, I've been talking this thing up a lot, right? I mean, I've been really talking this thing up. Well, because I kind of have ideas, too. 90% of the people out there are going to be dealing with something sort of similar to this, right? Carburetor, engine, and that is basically what it's built for the 90% of us, right? I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of curious how well it does for the 10% of us out there. I kind of fall into the 10%, right? Let me give you examples. I want to know kind of how, effective is it going to be with something maybe with nitrous on it? How much safer will running nitrous be if you have something correcting your air fuel ratio all the time? Because running nitrous bottle pressure is a big thing. You got to have the correct bottle pressure. Otherwise, the jets that you have for the nitrous are tuned to a certain bottle pressure. Your bottle pressure is off, then your tune's going to be off. Your 150 jet's not going to be 150 jet of nitrous and gas. It might only be, less nitrous and more gas. So if you have a cold bottle, it might not shoot as much nitrous into the engine. You might be running a little bit fat. But you know what? If you have the bottle behind your seat, and some guy is, kind of looking over there at you, and you don't have time to stop what you're doing, warm up the bottle, with a blowtorch, which is a terrible thing to do, but, it's just what happens, right? Or you got the fancy bottle heater, or, you don't want to pay for the fancy bottle here. You don't want to wait for the thing to... You shoot it off a little bit on the rich side because, the fuel part's working just fine. It's just the bottle pressure is not exactly right for, the nitrous setup. Will it correct that? Will it correct your air fuel ratio on the bottle if the bottle's not exactly perfect? And in doing so, will you gain all that power back? Well, what little you lose. I mean, realistically, you don't lose that much by not having the bottle pressure correct. But safety, right? That's the main thing. Will you gain that safety back? And if it does, would that encourage more people to run nitrous? Would that open another door yet again for the average person to be a little more confident with it, right? I mean, because nitrous can be scary. I mean, a lot of people are scared. Just in my comments section, I get people who are kind of scared of nitrous, fearing that I'm going to blow up this thing up. That might, a little bit of a safety net for people might encourage them to really try new things. Possibly new things that people might not have tried out before, I mean, who's to say? You got the data logging now. I mean, if you have data logging and you can actually see what is happening with your tune, on the fly and then capture it and do comparisons before and afters, testing out new things might become a little bit easier when you don't have a dyno. Or possibly try things people do all the time, but just the thought of doing it seems so outside of someone's capabilities of actually getting it to run good on the street that it just scares people away from doing it, you know? I mean, what if something that seemed hard to manage to get done on the street, you know, and make it run good and, you know, get really good gas mileage, what if that became simple for people? I don't have any examples of that right at the moment, but, you know, maybe. All I'm trying to say is, right, this carb cheater thing, I think it could open the doors for a lot of new people to enter the world of carburation, you know, to really, and even for the old people, I think it could actually benefit, you know, the gas mileage, you know, the being able to actually data log, see what the tune is doing, you know, back-to-back tests on things, maybe running ridiculous intake manifolds or spacers or this and that, and actually getting to see how it affects the air-fuel ratio, you know. I don't know. I think that, I think this is a good idea. It's newfangled technology, but it's not going to affect your actual vehicle if it ever breaks down on you, you know. You're not sacrificing your mechanical roots in order to use it, you know. I like it. You know what? I might get one. Maybe. Possibly. Had to see. But that's it for now. I'll catch you next time. Oh, and Thunderhead 2A and we don't know each other. We've never even, you know, spoken one word to each other. I don't think we've even commented on each other's videos at any time. But yeah, if you happen to see this and you want to get together and try to come up with some way to make that 40 mile per hour carburetor work along with the 4-barrel, you know, we should maybe talk. I mean, I think that might be revolutionary if you could get 40 miles per gallon, you know, just cruising around, and when you want to actually, you know, hit it, you actually have power. So, you know. But anyways, it, you know, just hypothetical, right? I'll catch you next time.